The Legend of Jigong Chapter 34.
Okay, let's unpack this. The narrative throws us right into the deep end at the estate of Squire Liang, who is a wealthy local patron.
A very wealthy patron.
Yeah, and the squire is hosting a dinner, and he has invited Jigong and this proud Taoist priest, Zhang Miaoxing.
The socioeconomic dynamic here is really important to keep in mind.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, the Taoist operates within a strict hierarchy. He expects deference, he relies on patrons for funding, and his entire identity is built on projecting an aura of untouchable authority.
And then Jigong walks in.
Exactly. Jigong, by simply existing in the same room smelling of cheap wine and wearing a tattered robe, threatens that carefully curated authority.
It's like oil and water.
Yeah.
So they are locked in this remarkably petty argument at the dinner table.
Near petty.
And the Taoist decides he needs to publicly reassert his dominance. He makes a wager. He tells Jigong that he can knock him out cold with just 3 calls.
And Jigong's response is just perfect.
He dares him to call 6 times. Like, bring it on.
Which is hilarious. So this prompts the Taoist to deploy what the text calls a minor technique.
Right, the cup trick.
Yeah. He slams his wine cup upside down on the table and shouts a specific command. He yells, "Chillin'."
Okay, wait. Chilling. This isn't just a generic magic word like abracadabra, right?
Dude, not at all. In Daoist ritual, chilling translates roughly to an imperial command or a strict decree.
Oh, wow. So it's very official.
Extremely official. It operates on the premise that the universe is a massive bureaucracy, and the priest has the authorized clearance to issue direct orders to spiritual forces.
Like a manager barking orders at the universe.
Exactly like that. By slamming the cup and shouting the decree, he is attempting to forcibly alter the physical state of the monk through acoustic and spiritual resonance.
And on the surface, the mechanism works perfectly.
It seems to, yes.
Jigong is literally mid-sip of his wine, and he just collapses to the floor, totally unresponsive.
Right, and Squire Liang absolutely panics.
I mean, I would too. He assumes he is now an accessory to the murder of a monk in his own dining room.
It's a PR nightmare for the squire.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the Taoist is just sitting there, incredibly smug. He leans back and explains that as long as the wine cup remains upside down, Jigong's soul is pinned.
It's all about control for him.
Yeah, he tells the room that the monk will lie there indefinitely until the cup is lifted or until he decides to administer the medicine to reverse the spell.
It is a highly theatrical display of intimidation.
For sure. He's showing off.
He wants the wealthy host to witness this cause and effect relationship. He's saying, I speak the command, I manipulate the object, I control life and death.
What's fascinating here is the emphasis on cause and effect.
Yes. The Taoist is practicing mechanical magic.
Hmm.
He believes the universe is essentially a complex machine.
Like a vending machine.
Kind of. If you input the correct keystrokes, the precise word, the physical action of the cup, the machine is obligated to produce the desired output.
It's an aesthetic of control that relies entirely on compliance.
Exactly. But the fatal flaw in this system is that it assumes the target operates on the same frequency of ego and physical attachment.
Which brings us to Jigong's reaction, which is honestly my favorite part.
It's so good.
The Taoist is basking in his apparent victory, right? He just finished explaining how he holds Jigong's life in his hands.
And then what happens?
Jigong just simply stands up.
He just gets up.
Yeah, he brushes the dust off his rags, and the Taoist stammers, entirely bewildered. He points out that he hasn't lifted the cup or given the cure.
He's probably thinking the universe's machinery just broke.
Right. And Jigong looks at him and says, "Oh, my mistake. You didn't give me the medicine yet. I'll just lie back down."
It's incredible.
And he literally offers to get back on the floor and play dead to protect the Taoist's feelings. It completely dismantles the Taoist's entire reality.
By weaponizing compliance, Jigong exposes the illusion of the Taoist's power.
Weaponized compliance. I love that phrasing.
It's exactly what it is. The Taoist requires fear and resistance to prove his strength. Jigong offers extreme, sarcastic accommodation.
It completely deflates him.
Right. He reveals that the chilling decree didn't force him to the ground at all. He put himself on the ground because he thought they were playing a game.
And the moment he grew bored, he just stood up.
Exactly. It takes this supposedly terrifying cosmic command and reduces it to a toddler's game of make-believe.
That is such a profound shift in power.
It is an application of the Buddhist concept of non-attachment. The spell couldn't pin Jigong because there was nothing substantive, no ego, for the spell to pin down.
So, of course, this humiliation pushes the Taoist from petty annoyance into genuine malice.
He doesn't take it well.
Not at all.
Hmm.
He escalates the situation drastically. He demands Jigong's 8 characters, the Shengqimbasi.
The Bazi, yes. This is crucial.
So this is the exact year, month, day, and time of birth.
Right.
And Jigong immediately hands the information over. He doesn't even blink. This allows the Taoist to strike him with a more severe spell that leaves Jigong genuinely unconscious this time.
Or at least appearing genuinely unconscious.
Fair point. Then the Taoist issues an ultimatum to the squire. He says, throw the monk into the street before the rooster crows, or the monk dies and you face a murder trial.
He's doubling down.
Big time. He just storms out. But looking at the sources on ancient Chinese cosmology, the Bazi is so much more than just a birth date, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you explain that? Because it explains why handing it over is treated as such a lethal risk.
Yes. The Bazi is fundamentally different from a modern understanding of a birthday. In the traditional Chinese cosmological framework, time is not merely a linear measurement.
Okay, what is it then?
It is a cyclical manifestation of elemental energies. The 4 pillars of destiny, the year, month, day, and hour, are expressed through heavenly stems and earthly branches.
That sounds incredibly complex.
It is. These represent the specific gravitational, elemental, and spiritual forces present in the universe at the exact moment you took your first breath.
So it's not just a date on a calendar.
No. When the Taoist demands the Bazi, he isn't asking for identification. He is asking for the architectural blueprint of Jigong's spiritual structure.
Wow. It functions like the source code of a human life.
That is a brilliant way to put it. Yes, the source code.
So if someone has your Bazi, they know exactly where your energetic defenses are weak.
Exactly. They know which elemental levers to pull to destabilize your physical and spiritual form.
So returning to my earlier question for you, why on earth does Jigong give this up?
It does seem crazy.
It seems like madness. We know he is enlightened. But this seems like handing a hacker your IP address, your admin passwords, and turning off your firewall just to prove a point.
Right.
Why take that kind of risk?
From an ordinary perspective, it is a catastrophic risk. But Jigong operates from the Buddhist principle of anatta, or non-self.
Okay, break down anatta for us.
So the Taoist believes that by acquiring the Bazi, he has mapped the territory of Jigong's soul.
Right.
But Jigong is demonstrating that the map is not the territory, and in fact, there is no territory at all.
Wow.
If the self is an illusion, then the Bazi is merely a description of an empty room.
That is mind-blowing.
Jigong hands over the coordinates to prove that true spiritual fortitude cannot be hacked or manipulated. Why? Because an enlightened being is no longer bound by the elemental constraints the Bazi describes.
So he's allowing the Taoists to launch a cyber attack against a server that doesn't actually exist.
Precisely.
That completely reframes the entire power dynamic.
It really does.
While Jigong is lying supposedly unconscious on the floor, and the squire is absolutely terrified of a murder charge, the narrative follows the Taoist Zhang Miaxing.
Right, he retreats back to his base.
Yeah, to the Zhangyun Temple on 5 Immortals Mountain. And what we witness next is, frankly, a meticulously detailed descent into a toxic psychological spiral.
It is a total meltdown.
He arrives, seething with anger, and immediately orders his junior disciple Lu Miaotong to gather straw and bind a straw man.
Which is classic sympathetic magic.
Right. And when the disciple nervously asks who the target is, the Taoist actually admits why he's doing this.
And the reason is so petty.
It's incredibly petty. He admits he is launching this lethal curse simply because Jigong embarrassed him and cost him the silver he planned to extract from the squire.
It is a profound failure of spiritual responsibility.
Totally.
The text deliberately contrasts the immense cosmological power of the tools the Taoist uses with the staggering pettiness of his motivation.
He's basically throwing a cosmic tantrum.
Exactly. He isn't protecting the innocent or balancing the forces of nature. He is deploying lethal force to soothe a bruised ego.
And the sources go into clinical detail regarding the mechanics of Daoist alchemy and ritual magic here. It's fascinating.
The level of detail is amazing.
The Taoist sets up an 8 Immortals table in front of the main hall. He arranges incense, candles, and the 5 offerings.
Very standard formal preparations.
Right, and he waits for the stars to fully emerge, tying his actions to celestial movements.
Timing is everything in these rituals.
Then he undergoes a physical shedding of his formal identity. He takes off his Taoist crown, lets his hair hang wild, and draws his sword.
He is tapping into something much more primal here.
And the ingredients he uses for this curse are fascinatingly specific. He uses rootless water, 5 grains, cinnabar, and yellow paper for talismans.
Yes, all very potent materials.
Let's really break down the how and why of these materials, because it's not random. Why specifically rootless water?
So, the use of rootless water, which is rainwater collected before it touches the ground, is deeply rooted in the concept of qi, the vital life force.
Okay.
In Daoist metaphysics, the universe is a constant interplay of heaven, which is yang, and earth, which is yin.
Right, the classic yin and yang.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Water that strikes the earth absorbs yin energy. It becomes grounded and heavy.
So it's spiritually contaminated in a way.
In the context of this specific ritual, yes, rootless water remains purely celestial. It is completely untouched by the corruption or gravity of the mundane world.
That makes a lot of sense.
By using it, the Taoist is attempting to utilize a pure, unadulterated conduit to the divine. He is trying to force his spell to operate on a higher, untouchable frequency.
Wow. And he combines this rootless water with cinnabar, which he grinds up to write the talismans.
Cinnabar is hugely important.
Right. Chemically, cinnabar is mercury sulfide.
Which is highly toxic.
Very toxic. But in external Taoist alchemy, it is perhaps the most significant substance imaginable.
It really is.
Its bright red color associates it visually with blood, the heart, and pure yang energy.
Yes, vitality.
Because it can be heated to release mercury, a liquid metal that seems to defy the rules of solid matter. Ancient alchemists viewed it as a substance that basically straddled the line between the physical and the spiritual.
It's a magical material to them.
But how does writing with crushed mercury sulfide actually capture a soul? I mean, what is the theoretical mechanic there?
The mechanism relies on resonance.
Resonance, okay.
Because cinnabar represents the purest concentration of life force and vitality, it acts as a spiritual magnet.
Ah, I see.
The Taoist is writing the decrees on yellow paper. And remember, the yellow paper acts as the official bureaucratic stationery of the celestial courts.
Right, he's basically filing official cosmic paperwork.
Exactly. And he's writing this paperwork using a medium that a wandering soul is naturally drawn toward.
So it's bait.
It is a highly engineered trap. The Taoist writes 3 specific talismans.
Tell us about those.
The first one is to summon a supernatural gale. The second is to forcibly extract and bind Jigong's soul using the resonance of the cinnabar.
And the third.
The third is to incinerate the physical body to ash.
The hypocrisy here is just staggering to me.
Oh, it's immense.
Before he ignites these talismans, he actually prays to the 3 pure ones.
Yes, the highest, most ineffable deities in the Taoist pantheon.
They represent the pure Tao itself. And he is invoking the ultimate source of all reality.
To do what?
To ask them to basically rubber stamp an assassination over a lost wager.
It's absurd when you really look at it.
It highlights a terrifying reality about systems of power, honestly.
Yeah.
Someone can completely master the mechanics of a system.
Knowing exactly how the rootless water and cinnabar interact.
Yes. While remaining completely bankrupt of the morality that the system was actually built to serve.
He views the divine not as a moral authority to submit to, but as a utility to be exploited.
That is a great way to put it.
He has turned theology into technology.
Theology into technology. Wow.
And standing there in the courtyard at midnight with his wild hair and glowing sword, he feels absolute godlike confidence in his technology.
But right at the apex of that confidence, the story throws a massive wrench into the machinery.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
A figure literally leaps out of the shadows and swings a heavy blade directly at the back of the Taoist's neck.
Just out of nowhere?
Out of nowhere. The Taoist, relying on his physical martial skill rather than magic for a second, dodges just in time.
You're quick.
He flashes a paralyzing spell from his sleeve and drops the attacker to the courtyard floor.
So the magic comes back out.
Right. He raises his sword for the killing blow, but his disciple runs out screaming, "Stop! That's my friend!"
Which is such a funny interruption to this dark ritual.
It completely derails the dark, methodical pacing of the ritual. And it forces us to look at this interloper, a man named Chen Liang.
Chen Liang is a fantastic character.
The text provides a remarkably deep backstory for him, introducing an entirely new philosophical framework.
Yes, we are shifting from Taoism to the morality of the Greenwood.
Explain that to us, because the introduction of Chen Liang is not just a random distraction.
No, it is the introduction of a competing moral hypothesis.
Okay.
Chen Liang is an orphan. He was raised by his aunt and uncle, and he is a highly dedicated martial artist.
And he specializes in a very specific style, right?
Yes, a style called progressing linked kicks.
Progressing linked kicks.
This tells us immediately that he is a close quarters, highly physical fighter. He relies on forward momentum, muscle, and kinetic reality.
which stands in stark contrast to the Daoist's ethereal, distance-based magic.
Exactly. They are opposites. And Chen Liang operates within the Lulin, the Greenwood.
So for those unfamiliar, the Greenwood is basically the fraternity of outlaws, bandits, and wandering swordsmen.
Right. They exist entirely outside the boundaries of conventional society.
And they operate on their own strict internal codes.
Very strict codes.
The text illustrates this code through a specific anecdote about Chen Liang's past. An event that earned him the incredible nickname, Sacred Hand White Ape.
It's a great nickname. And the story is wild.
It really is. So the leader of his bandit group is celebrating his mother's birthday.
A big event in that community.
Huge. All the established outlaws bring lavish gifts, but Chen Liang is completely broke.
He has nothing to give.
Right. And he is challenged by his peers to show shao, or filial piety, towards the leader's mother.
So what does he do?
In the dead of night, in early spring, when fresh fruit is an absolute impossibility, Chen Liang scales the high walls of a highly secure compound.
He's basically breaking and entering.
Oh, full-on burglary. And he steals an entire platter of 10 giant out-of-season northern peaches.
And he brings them back.
He brings them back, and the bandits are just in awe. They bestow this legendary title upon him, elevating his status in the group.
To understand the mechanism of Greenwood morality here, we have to look at the concepts of yi and shao.
Okay, yi and shao.
Yi translates roughly to righteousness or brotherhood loyalty, and shao, as you mentioned, is filial piety. In the Jianghu, the rivers and lakes of the martial world, these virtues completely supersede state law.
State law doesn't matter to them.
Not at all. The fact that Chen Liang committed burglary, trespassing, and theft is entirely irrelevant to his peers.
They don't care that he broke the law.
What matters is the extreme physical risk he absorbed to honor the mother of his leader.
Wow.
He weaponized his physical skill to serve the internal morality of the Brotherhood.
I look at that and I immediately see the tension.
Oh, it's a huge contradiction.
He is being praised as a massive hero for committing a major property crime. It creates a sort of moral vertigo for the reader. We have a holy Taoist priest trying to commit murder, and a literal thief being praised as a paragon of virtue.
But the text doesn't actually allow the romanticized outlaw myth to stand unchallenged.
No, it doesn't.
Chen Liang returns to his home village, fully expecting his family to be so proud of his new title and his bandit brethren.
He thinks he's a big shot now.
Right. But instead, his sister, Yu Mei, sits him down and utterly dismantles his worldview.
She tears him apart.
She really does. Yu Mei represents the rigid, concrete reality of Confucian social structure.
And Confucianism is very different from the Greenwood Code.
Extremely different. Confucianism relies on the 5 bonds, the hierarchical relationships that maintain societal harmony. She rejects the Greenwood Code entirely.
What does she say to him?
She tells him, once a thief, always a bandit.
Ouch.
She completely strips away the romantic veneer of the sacred hand white ape.
She argues from the mechanism of collective responsibility, doesn't she?
Yes, she points out the physical, brutal reality of his choices.
She warns him that if he is caught, he won't die a glorious martial arts death. He will be dragged to the public square and executed like a common criminal.
It's a harsh reality check.
But beyond his own life, she targets his spiritual and familial obligations, which hits him way harder.
It does. She tells him that his actions bring deep shame to their ancestors and ruin the prospects of any descendants.
Because in a society where ancestral veneration is paramount, she is telling him that his outlaw honor is actively destroying his family's spiritual lineage.
Exactly. She exposes the fatal flaw in the Greenwood morality.
Which is what?
That it is a closed loop. It completely ignores the collateral damage inflicted on the broader society.
So Chen Liang is faced with a profound crisis of purpose.
He is suddenly completely lost.
He recognizes that the rigid, often hypocritical laws of conventional society feel empty to him. But the violent, romanticized loyalty of the bandits is ultimately a dead end that endangers his family.
He's stuck between 2 flawed systems.
Right. He realizes that physical prowess, his progressing link kicks, cannot solve a spiritual and moral deficit.
So this realization drives him to make a radical choice.
He leaves his home in the middle of the night. Again. He resolves to travel to the capital to find a high monk or a true master. He actually decides to become a monk himself.
He wants a clean slate.
Yeah. He aims to sever all worldly attachments and karmic debts so his family is never burdened by his existence again.
He is transitioning from a reliance on physical power to a search for spiritual truth.
Which is a beautiful sentiment, but it brings us to the incredible dark comedy of his arrival at the Xianyun Temple.
It is so funny.
The irony of his situation perfectly illustrates how difficult it is to break old patterns, right?
Oh, entirely. He has committed to a holy spiritual quest for enlightenment, but a quest requires travel funds.
Right, you need money to travel.
So, to finance his journey toward ultimate moral purity, what does he do?
He breaks into a wealthy household and steals a large sum of silver.
It is a hilarious contradiction.
He relies on the exact skills he is trying to abandon to facilitate his escape from them.
Humans are complicated.
Very. So, after securing the stolen silver, he decides to stop by the temple to visit his old friend, the disciple Lu Miaotong.
The guy from earlier.
Right. And true to his martial arts nature, he doesn't just walk up and use the front gate.
Of course not.
He simply scales the wall and drops into the courtyard.
And we have to view this scene through the lens of psychological confirmation bias.
Explain how that works here.
Precisely. Chen Liang drops into the courtyard with his Greenwood worldview still largely intact, despite his new goals.
He's still thinking like a bandit.
He looks at the scene in the courtyard. A man with disheveled hair, a face twisted in malice, wielding a sword over an altar at midnight.
It'll look bad.
He doesn't see a complex theological ritual. He sees a villain.
Right, he instantly assumes this evil practitioner has murdered his friend and taken over the temple.
Operating on the Greenwood instinct of yi loyalty and swift justice, he just attacks.
He literally throws a punch to defend his friend, only to get paralyzed and have his friend run out and explain that he just tried to assassinate the head priest of the temple.
It's so awkward.
Incredibly awkward. Once the paralysis spell is lifted and the extreme awkwardness subsides, Lu Miaotong explains the reality of the situation.
He catches him up.
He tells Chen Liang that the Daoist is currently in the middle of an elaborate curse to capture the soul of the legendary monk Jigong.
And this is the moment Chen Liang transforms from a random interloper into the most important structural element of the chapter.
He becomes our audience surrogate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Chen Liang's motivation is the search for a true master, a demonstration of real power.
Right, he's looking for answers.
He has abandoned physical martial arts, and now he is presented with a live demonstration of two competing metaphysical systems.
It's like a scientific experiment for him.
It is. On one side, he sees the Daoist wielding complex rituals, elemental control, and aggressive mechanical magic.
And on the other side.
On the other side is the target, Jigong, who relies entirely on spiritual defense and karmic alignment.
So Chen Liang decides to step back into the shadows and just watch.
He wants to know which philosophy will survive contact with reality.
He has a front-row seat to the ultimate stress test of these two worldviews.
The stakes are incredibly high.
So the Daoist, fully recovered from the interruption, resumes the climax of the ritual.
He gets right back to it.
He hurls the three talismans into the air and ignites them with his sword.
The sources describe the resulting magic with terrifying kinematic detail.
The text actually shifts into a poetic structure here to capture the sheer destructive force of the wind the Daoist summons.
It's not just a weather event.
No, it is an apocalyptic gale. The poem describes the wind uprooting ancient trees, completely blotting out the starlight, and churning river water into massive waves.
The Daoist mechanism at play here views the wind as the physical manifestation of the priest's will scraping against the fabric of reality.
His will is literally causing friction in the universe.
Yes, the friction of his intent generates this storm, and the most chilling detail in the text is the auditory component.
What does it sound like?
The wind is described as howling with the voices of 1,000,000 angry ghosts.
That is horrifying.
It is a shrieking, chaotic force carrying flying sand and stones capable of injuring anyone caught in it.
It is an overwhelming display of raw, aggressive power designed to shatter Jigong's defenses and drag his soul back to the cinnabar trap.
So the courtyard is just a terrifying maelstrom.
And Chen Liang is just watching this, witnessing a level of power that makes his progressing linked kicks look entirely irrelevant.
He's probably rethinking a lot of things.
Oh, definitely. The spell reaches its terrifying apex, and then suddenly the wind just dies down.
It just stops.
It just stops. The dust begins to settle. The Daoist stands at the altar, chest heaving, his sword lowered.
He thinks he's won.
He is waiting for the transactional result of his mechanical magic. He expects to see the glowing, captive, helpless soul of Jigong floating into the courtyard to be destroyed.
He has pulled the levers, he has paid the energetic cost, and he is waiting for the machine to dispense his victory.
But the machine breaks.
It completely fails.
As the dust clears, a sound emerges from the path leading up to the temple.
And it isn't the wail of a captive ghost.
No, it is a slow, rhythmic, entirely mundane sound.
Tell us what it is.
It's just a sound like slap, 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 slap.
Slap slap.
It is the unmistakable sound of worn-out straw sandals casually walking up the mountain path.
That is so good.
Out of the darkness, entirely physical and completely unbothered, steps Jigong.
The juxtaposition is brilliant.
It's amazing.
The Daoist summoned a hurricane of supernatural terror, and it is answered by the quiet, shuffling footsteps of mundane reality.
I am absolutely obsessed with the cosmic irony of this outcome. Let's look at the mechanism of why this actually happened.
Okay, let's break it down.
The Taoists spent hours gathering rare ingredients, drawing precise bureaucratic talismans, and praying to the highest gods to summon Jigong to him.
Very hard work.
And the spell worked.
Wait, it worked.
It functioned flawlessly. He demanded the universe deliver Jigong to his doorstep, and the universe complied.
Oh,
It just delivered the whole, entirely alive, very physically present monk instead of a helpless soul.
That is perfect. And the reason the spell manifested this way cuts to the core of the text's philosophy.
Please explain the philosophy behind this.
The mechanism of the Taoists' magic relied on finding a vulnerability, an ego, a soul attached to the physical world to grab onto.
Right, the Bosy coordinates.
Exactly. But because Jigong has achieved a nada, non-self, there was no soul to extract.
The room was empty.
The room was empty. However, the energy of the curse had still been unleashed. It had to go somewhere.
So what happened?
Here is where the mechanism of karma overrides the mechanics of magic.
Karma overrides magic.
Yes, karma is not a spell. It is the fundamental law of universal cause and effect.
Okay.
The Taoists generated a massive amount of malicious intent directed at Jigong. The universe, seeking equilibrium, balanced that equation by physically walking the consequence of that intent right up to the altar.
Which was Jigong himself.
Exactly.
It is the ultimate philosophical mic drop.
It really is.
Jigong doesn't arrive riding a cloud or throwing lightning bolts. He arrives by simply walking. He's immune to the curse, not because his shields are thicker, but because he offers nothing for the curse to strike.
He's untargetable.
Untargetable. He looks at the Taoist, who is undoubtedly paralyzed by the collapse of his entire worldview.
His brain is probably short-circuiting.
Absolutely. And Jigong delivers a devastating final line. He says, "Wicked creature, you don't know that good and evil always have their reward. It's only a matter of time."
That phrase, "it's only a matter of time," reorients the entire concept of power in this story.
How so?
Well, the Taoist believed power was the ability to manipulate time and matter to serve his immediate desires. He thought drawing symbols and shouting decrees gave him agency over the universe.
But he was wrong.
Completely. Jigong reveals that magical mechanics are always, inevitably, subservient to moral law.
You cannot hack karma.
Exactly. You cannot use the tools of the universe to bypass the morality of the universe. Good and evil have their own gravity.
The Taoist thought he was the architect of reality.
But Jigong shows him that they are both subject to a karmic momentum that is infinitely larger than a drawn sword or a yellow paper talisman.
And think about Chen Lang. He's just standing in the shadows watching this whole thing unfold.
His mind must be blown.
He left his home looking for a master, trying to understand true strength.
And he found his answer.
He just watched a man bend the elements and summon a hurricane, only to be completely conceptually dismantled by a monk in straw sandals who just went for a walk.
It beautifully answers his crisis of purpose.
It really does. True power isn't the ability to inflict violence, whether through progressing linked kicks or Daoist alchemy.
Right.
True power is absolute alignment with universal truth, which renders the frantic attacks of others entirely irrelevant.